Who are the top 10 running backs in the 2024 NFL draft? I went ahead and dropped my positional rankings. We're going to go over every single one of them, 1 through 10. Keith's going to tell me how he feels. Y'all let me know how you feel. We're going to talk about this and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Locked On family? Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy Damian Parson, always on the ones and twos. You can find and follow me on X at DP_NFL. I'm a national scout and a senior draft analyst. And guys, thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers, family. But listen, you know I got to kick this intro to my guy, Mr. LSU himself, my partner in crime, Keith Sanchez. You can find and follow him on X at The Talent Code. Keep talking to him, baby.
What's up, Locked On family? This is Keith Sanchez, 2019 national champ with those LSU Bengal Tigers. And what, man, the other side to this dynamic podcast, the dynamic duo, man, that we like to call the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, man, where you come to get all your best draft content. Yes, stay tapped in with us each and every single day, man. I want to say shout out to our everydayers, man. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. And I want to say this, man, if you haven't liked the video, go ahead and like this video. I promise this is going to be a good video. Don't forget to comment, man, after each segment. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel with DP. Like you said, man, we are talking about your rankings, your running backs. We're going to be dropping more rankings throughout the draft season, right? I think next up, DP will be my wide receiver rankings. So we're going to have some fun with this, revealing our rankings to the Locked On NFL Draft community, man. But DP, we're going to talk about your rankings and get that thing going. But before that, DP, why don't you hit them with our title sponsor?
Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Keith, let's kick it off 1 through 4 here. All right, at number 1. Now, guys, my actual number 1 running back went back to Ohio State. Travion Henderson went back to school, so I had to make some adjustments, late into the process. But number 1, Florida State running back Trey Benson. Number 2, Texas running back Jonathan Brooks. Number 3, Michigan running back Blake Corum. At number 4, Braylon Allen, running back from Wisconsin. Keith, through the first 4, how we feeling? What's your initial reaction to that?
DP, I mean, we don't have to go far, right? We can start with number 1, Trey Benson sitting at RB1, man. I think that's a selection that not many people were expecting, right? You're expecting maybe a Jonathan Brooks, maybe a Blake Corum, a Braylon Allen, right? Because Trey Benson, I guess we would say production, right? Stats at Florida State doesn't necessarily equal RB1, right? He doesn't necessarily have the resume. So I want to ask you, what went into that for you when it comes to putting Trey Benson at running back 1, saying he's the best running back in this class?
Listen, Trey Benson listed at 6'1", 225 pounds. And like you said, Keith, and the production's been good for him, right? Back-to-back years of close to 1,000. 2022, 154 carries, 994 yards, just 6 yards shy of 1,000, 9 rushing touchdowns. 2023, 156 rush yards, 905 yards, 14 rushing touchdowns. He's averaged close to 6 yards per carry back-to-back years. 2022, 6.5, and then 2023, 5.8. For me, when I just look at the total skill set, this is a guy that is physical, downhill run style, but the open field speed and acceleration is something you're not prepared for a guy at his size and frame, right? But I also came away really impressed with his ability to catch the football, not just like screens and flat routes. I think it was against Clemson. You watch him run rail routes and wheel routes down the sideline, tracking the ball, playing it at the catch point against, I think it was Barrett Carter, the linebacker from Clemson, and things of that nature. He can run routes out of the backfield. He's got that special teams. I think he's a kick returner. I think he got a couple touchdowns, or at least a touchdown this season. So you see the ability to work in traffic and weave in. Is he going to be the most elusive, two-step, just kind of shake you out your shoes? No, he's not going to take you dancing with the stars. That's not the type of running back you're going to get out of him. But he's still able to kind of weave in and out and read and cut well. I think for me, it's a situation where the narrative is like, all right, well, they didn't feed him. Well, I mean, they had Toafili, right? You know what I mean? Who's a explosive, good back in his own right. And I think Mike Norvell, they just had so many weapons, Keith. Johnny Wilson, Keon Coleman, Jaheim Bell, Toafili. Like, they just had a lot of weapons where it's like, man, we can't really feed just one back, right? Compared to what we see with Michigan and Blake Corum, where you just get fed the rock play after play after play. But just watching the ability for him to be physical, to set the tone, and then to change the pace. And for me, with that full skill set, I'm like, yeah, and the tread on the tires is still good, baby. The tread on the tires is still good because he never eclipsed 160 rush attempts in the season. So that's why, for me, the complete skill set, the athleticism, the size, and then also the less wear and tear makes him my RB1 right now.
Yeah, okay. Well, look, let's go to number 2, and it seems like we're going in order, but I promise you, this is just what's most intriguing to me about this list. With Jonathan Brooks at number 2, coming off the ACL injury, I'm because I watched him right now, and we had this conversation. I like Jonathan Brooks. I do think he's a solid player. I want to ask you this: is there any fall off between Trey Benson and Jonathan Brooks? And then also, how are you negotiating the ACL injury, right? Like in just his play style overall. And that's what people are going to want to know, right? Because you're throwing out the conversation of being RB1, or is he, what you see on film, elite enough? Do you think that it'll be able to hold throughout an ACL injury the way he could potentially fall to RB5 or RB6?
I think, especially, with the ACL, of course, modern medicine has changed the way we view ACLs now, where guys just kind of bounce back a lot faster. They're able to keep more of that athleticism and explosiveness or whatever it is. They're not zapped of that juice and everything as much as we used to see back in the day. With him, he's probably, a guy that's you're gonna dynasty fantasy leagues, you're going to draft and stash, right? That first year, you don't expect a whole lot of them because he's got to get over that mental hurdle. Even when he's cleared and he's good to go, that mental hurdle of trusting that knee to be able to plant and cut and do the different things he's able to do. This is a guy that fits that zone scheme very well to me. Reads and processes. I love his process in terms of being able to go from patient to from patient to pursuit, to where he's like, slow too fast through. That phrase we talk about with running backs, where he presses and then he cuts up very well. He's a talented receiver at the backfield as well. Good in pass protection. The thing that, when you talk about the drop off between him and Benson, Benson's a much more explosive athlete, in my opinion. Where Benson, that long speed is long speed. Where once he gets, just like a receiver, when that receiver stacks you who runs a 4.4, you're going to feel that 4.4 because you're not going to catch that 4.4. And I think that's the difference, where I feel like Jonathan Brooks athletically doesn't measure up to where Trey Benson is, but I do think he's a good back, man. I think he's a guy that could be an RB1, especially for these zone schemes and teams. It's no more true bell cows anymore, first off, Keith.
No.
So it's like, I think he'll be a good RB1, especially for a stable, for a good 1-2 punch.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. And I thought it was interesting just, looking at Jonathan Brooks, right? And just obviously from what you see on TV, and then when you actually dive into film and you focus on who the player is outside of necessarily results, and you grade the athletic profile, right? That will translate to the NFL. But DP, let's keep this thing going, man. We talk about running backs 1 through 3, 1 through 4, right? Get into picks 1 through 7 as far as your running back rankings and who you have kind of in that sweet spot, right? Which potentially could be a good value spot, because the NFL, they're tend to devalue running backs, but you can also find really talented running backs right in that situation. So coming up next, man, picks 5 through 7.
When buying tickets to your next favorite and big event, whether it's a musical concert, a football game, a basketball game, or whatever, you shouldn't have to worry when it comes down to buying those tickets. But if you wait to the last minute, you will. But let me introduce you to the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all those needs, right? The sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. It's called Game Time. With Game Time, they offer last-minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals. Their tickets are easy to find and buy. And this is my favorite part. Game Time shows the views from every seat in the venue. So before you purchase your ticket, you know what vantage point you will have. Right now, guys, the Baltimore Ravens are hosting in the AFC divisional playoff game at home. All right. They're hosting it at home, and you can get tickets before the game arrives. They have tickets as cheap as $194 on the Game Time app right now. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. I know we come to sports to escape some of the crazy realities of real life, but can we just talk for a minute about preparing for real life? According to the FDA, pharmacies are running out of antibiotics like amoxicillin right now with so many different viral infections going on and in the air right now. Okay, we don't like it. We don't need that stuff, right? I can imagine a more helpless feeling than if someone I love, my wife, my son, my mother-in-law, my mother, if one of them were to end up sick, and while the supply chain issue kept them from having the life-saving medication they needed. Thankfully, we'll be okay because of Jase Medical. The Jase case is a pack of 5 different antibiotics that treat a long list of bacterial illnesses, respiratory infections, skin infections, sinusitis, among others. This stuff can happen to any of us. Visit jasemedical.com and complete your physician encounter. It will be reviewed by a board-certified physician, and your medication will be dispensed by a licensed pharmacy at a fraction of the cost. It's never been more important to be prepared than today. Go to jasemedical.com and use our offer code Locked On for $20 off your order. All right, guys. Went through picks 1 through 4.
DP.
Go ahead.
Real quick. I listen. I told the people we were gonna go picks 5 through 7, right? But I'm sorry. I got to go backwards just a little bit, man. And I want to jump into the running back that you have ranked number 4, and that's a high profile name. This was RB1 for a lot of people, right? And that is Wisconsin's running back Braylon Allen. But DP, I know we talked in the summer, and this has been a continued conversation, right? Where I believe that the meter, right, or you talk about draft stock, right? I think it was up, it was down, it went up a little bit, it went down a little bit. So to be completely honest, before you dropped your rankings, I had no idea what Braylon Allen was going to come in on your list, but he still came in at pick 4, right? At RB4 for you. So I kind of want to get the conversation of the good and bad, right? Because I know there were some things that you were out on with Braylon Allen, but he still came in at RB4 for you, which is pretty good, right? So I want to talk about both sides of that coin when we talk about the prospect, the running back prospect that Braylon Allen is.
Man, I mean, Keith, this is a guy, a young man, because I think he's still at 19, 20 years old.
Yeah.
People love to bring that up, right? Let's say 6'2", 245. Yeah, he'll be 20 years old January the 20th, right? So, you know,
around the corner.
Just right around the corner, young guy, right? You know, and 3 consecutive years over 950 yards rushing, 12 back-to-back years in 2021 and 2022 is over 1,200, and he's got 12 double-digit touchdowns, 35 touchdowns in 3 years. He's got a little bit of a fumbling issue. He's got 2 years of at least 4 fumbles where you want to see him clean that up. But for me, it's just some things that, like, even though he's young, some things just aren't going to improve. The lateral agility, right? The foot quickness, things of that nature, that's not going to improve as much because of his build, his size, the physical nature of what he is, right? And I think this is a guy, I think he is patient enough. Gap scheme, I think downhill, he's going to be somebody I think could lead a rushing attack, right? We watched Gus Edwards lead the Baltimore Ravens running attack, right? Being the RB1 for that team. Okay, we've seen that. So I think teams that want to run the ball and be physical and get vertical and get downhill, right, and kind of set that tone, he can do that. He's to me, I think he's a better version of A.J. Dillon. You know what I mean? So it's like big, strong, can, run downhill. He's got to continue to improve in pass protection, right? You can't be 6'2", 245 and not be a powerhouse in pass protection, right? Because that's just not going to cut it. And he's not an ideal third down back, right? He's not going to run a ton of routes. He's not going to give you much in the passing game. He can catch the ball, but it's like, okay, well, yeah, you're going to catch the ball where? Just in the flats, right? You're going to be just a check down option. Whereas, I look at some of these other backs, which you're going to get into in just a second, guys that can run more routes, guys that can do a little bit more things. And he does have open field speed, but I just think physically he's a limited guy from an agility standpoint. And his game is limited to just being that physical downhill guy. And again, He's going to be a how to put this, Keith, a high volume runner where like to really, you know what I mean, if you want to believe he could be like a high end RB1, he's going to need 20 carries a game. He's going to need that. I'm going to be honest with you. He's going to need that Derrick Henry workload, in my opinion, where you allow him to you build the offense where it's him first, passing game second. Now, is that a winning recipe? No, but that's if you want to get to that ceiling for him, that's where it needs to be, in my opinion, Keith. But I think he's a good back. I think he's a little overhyped compared to what the consensus is. It has been since he got to Wisconsin. Get it, young, all that big. He looks like a video game running back, but there's some things that I just, from a running standpoint, the runability I don't like. But Keith, I'm gonna tell you something though. My number 5 back. I've said this on this pod before. If you're looking for the Tyjae Spears of 2025, it's Oregon running back Bucky Brooks.
This
all right,
one of my guys also. I like
one
Bucky.
of my dudes, right? Number 6, we got USC running back Marshawn Lloyd. And then at number 7, we got Kentucky running back Ray Davis, Keith. You said Bucky Brooks is, Bucky Irving is one of your guys. Keith, I think, man, the size and everything is similar to, height, weight, similar to Tyjae. The cutting ability, the patience, the dynamic ability, the explosiveness in open field, and he can catch the ball. Man, I think, and when you look at Kyron Williams, you're seeing Tyjae Spears, we're seeing, just smaller backs that aren't the Braylon Allens and the Trey Bensons of the world. We're seeing these smaller backs have more success in the NFL. And it's really fun to see, Keith, because the old adage of just looking like a NFL running back, like you can look like it doesn't mean you are one. Like these guys can play, man, and I'm really happy to see James Cook the way he's playing. That's another potential kind of comp for Bucky Irving as well.
Yeah, no, I like Bucky, and the thing is this: that he's small, but I don't think he's slight, right? Like I don't get the narrow build from him. So I think he has pretty good contact balance, and he's gonna be able to make some plays in the offense. And you're talking about being a potential complementary piece that can catch people off guard. And I'm going to throw out this situation, and I don't think he's this type of player, but I do think how the Lions use Jahmyr Gibbs, I can see Bucky Irving being used in that way as far as a workload, right? And then as the year continues, right, he gets more and more of a workload, and then he can be that real change of a pace back that by the time you get to the end of the season, he can be leading a rushing attack, right? For, like through the back end from weeks, 13 through 17 and then into the playoffs and do some different dynamic things. So I'm right there with you. I like Bucky Irving. DP, somebody that nobody's talking about at all would be USC's running back Marshawn Lloyd. And to come in at option 6 for you, I thought it was a rather interesting, I guess, positioning for him, especially a running back nobody talks about. So what were some of the things that you liked when you seen him?
Man, I think, let's at 5'9", 210. Keith, I think he runs behind his pads. I think he runs with good, low center of gravity, good build. But also, I think he gets yards after the contact, after contact, but he makes guys miss an open field. Is he the most explosive and dynamic back? No, and I think, but prior to the injury he had at USC, at South Carolina. Right. But, if you remember from recruiting, this was one of the more highly touted high school running backs. Right. And I remember watching his highlight reel. I'm like, this is an explosive dude. Now he doesn't have that same level of explosiveness as much because that injury did take a little bit from him. But I still think he's got good enough juice in open field, quick footed, elusive, but he catches the ball out of the backfield as well. He's going to be a guy that, again, complimentary piece. He may not be the RB1 full time for an offense, but I think this is a guy that can absolutely make plays in both the run and pass game.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I view him like that, and I do want to, obviously, the ACL. Then the other part that kind of caught me up with Marshawn Lloyd, DP, real quick, is the size, right? Because I think he's Bucky Irving, you can categorize as explosive, right? I think Marshawn Lloyd, you categorize as, like you said, quick-footed at the end of the day. And I wonder just him, what's the negotiation between that, right? Like, would his athleticism be tapped in the NFL, and how much will he be able to make defenders miss, right? And be able to get vertical? I do like him from the mental perspective, right? Like, he's very intelligent runner, very intelligent running back. So that was kind of the part that kind of caught me up with Marshawn Lawrence because it was also the size. Now, if he was maybe, like 5'11", 6 foot, 220 pounds running like that, and you say, okay, you really have something, right? But the fact that, you're right around 200 pounds, 5'9" ish, 5'8" ish, right? It's like, okay, what do I exactly do with the skill set? So I thought that part was it made the watch interesting because there are a lot of things, like you said, that when you watch them, it's a lot of things that you like, right? Especially even his time spent at South Carolina. I think was it the Kentucky game? He had a really big game against Kentucky. Just in that backfield, and he was able to do some things with DP. Let's keep rolling, man. We have picks. We knocked out picks 5 through 7. I'm sorry with this segment, but coming up next, man, we're gonna round out the top 10. Picks 8 through 10 coming up next.
Guys, we just wrapped up Christmas. We wrapped up the NFL regular season, but we're now in the NFL playoffs, and there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers get $150 back in bonus bets, guaranteed when they place a $5 bet. Let me repeat that. New customers get $150 in bonus bets back, fully guaranteed when they place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is super easy to use to start, and there's so many different ways to bet. Guys, like live same game parlays, finding bets in the new Explore tab. Make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, the best way to find popular parlays. Guys, and so much, and I mean so much more. All you need to do is this. Go and visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a layup. Go and visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel is the official partner of the NFL. Throwing this thing out, Keith. At number 8, we got Notre Dame running back Audric Estime. At number 9, this name is going to age some of us, Frank Gore Jr. And then at number 10, Clemson running back Will Shipley, man. And Keith, I like Audric Estime is a guy that I think, listed at 5'11", 228, right? That bowling ball NFL type of build. He's going to be a fun option for a team that wants to just be physical, right? And I think about them teams up north, Keith, like the cold weather teams. I think, for me, I would love to see him, honestly, with the New York Giants. You know what I mean? Saquon's on the 1 year, the franchise tag. And he even said, I don't know. Basically, Saquon put it on New York, either tag me again or let me walk. Like, you know what I mean? If you're not going to give me a contract, let's not wait until March to figure this out. Let's just let me know what I'm getting myself into. But if Saquon's gone, right? They drafted Eric Gray last year. I think if that was going to be the case and you want to move with a younger, cheaper option at running back, I think Audric Estime would be a good fit for that day ball offense, especially getting downhill, being physical. And again, those cold weathered games, like you need somebody like this. You need a guy like this that can really attack the interior, but I think he has good speed in open field. I think it was a North Carolina State game where he had a 60, 70-yard run and he made a guy miss and worked around him. And you know what I mean? Then he just kind of pulled away from everybody. And it was just like, all right, big boy got some wheels to him as well, man. But he's kind of one of the more, he was a very productive back, but I know he's probably going to be like a day 3 pick for a lot of teams because he doesn't catch the ball out of the backfield a ton in terms of route running and all that type of stuff. And, making guys miss with elusiveness and everything, but he's still a good, capable back, in my opinion.
Yeah, I want to ask you real quick. What is the separation between Audric Estime and a guy like Braylon Allen?
Well, Braylon Allen, of course, that, size is going to be the first thing, right? That 6'2", 245 is going to separate both of them. I think they're both kind of gap scheme type of running backs. But I think that with him, with that size and everything, you're going to look at Braylon Allen and say, I feel more comfortable giving him a heavy workload and having him lead that power run game for multiple years, right? The age, the youth is a big thing where, I'm not really sure how old Audric Estime actually is. I don't have his date, but he's been in college for like 3-4 years. I think he was redshirted in 1 year. But I think that's going to be the big thing is just like neither one of them are the most elusive guy, but you think about just power, physicality, that former linebacker used to hitting people that Braylon Allen was accustomed to when he played the position. You see it in his run style. When he gets into the second level, the teeth of the defense, and he's already moving, those like second level and third level defenders are not like he's a guy that's gonna make you make business decisions. Because it's like, all right, if I don't catch him slipping, he's gonna put me in the dirt. You know what I mean? Where that bowling ball frame, that shorter, stockier build from Estime is still gonna be able to power through, churn the legs and everything, but he's not gonna bring the exact same type of thump to the run game as a Braylon Allen.
Okay, no, I completely understand. That's what I said because I guess the simple version of both of those guys, right? Some of they have some similarities, right? This is being big power backs, downhill gap scheme, power scheme, things like that. But I want to talk about your last guy, DP, and this is a name that big time name, DP, because he was a big time recruit coming out of high school, and that is Clemson's running back Will Shipley coming in at number 10. Why not higher? Why pick 10, right? Like, what's the profile on him? Because I think a lot of people, and I think will be talked up, right? Because let's be honest, right? People going to make the simple comp and talk about him at running back, and they're going to go Christian McCaffrey, right? So I want to talk about why at pick 10, right? He's behind, Frank Gore Jr. He's behind some of these running backs that you wouldn't expect him to be behind. So I want to ask you about Will Shipley, why you put him at pick 10.
For me, with Will Shipley, man, I love his game. He's the best receiving back, or he's top 2 best receiving backs in this class. I think he could honestly line up in the slot and play wide receiver, Keith. Truthfully, route running, in and out of breaks, the cuts, everything. And I think for him, listed at 5'11", 205 pounds, probably get to the combines, he'll probably be 5'10", $195. I think with him is that he doesn't give you a lot in the short game, right? In terms of moving the pile, like run power, things like he's a tough runner. Don't get me wrong, tough, gritty guy. But I think his best quality is more so as a pass catcher and in space. And I think he's going to be a change of pace back where I don't know if you can actually run the offense through him as a runner. You know what I mean? Where like even with like Jahmyr Gibbs, I felt like Jahmyr Gibbs handled contact downhill better than Will Shipley did. Think he's still an outstanding talent, but the frame, like I said, when they needed to go, it was 4th and 1, 3rd and 2, unless you're getting a great push up front, I don't see him converting a lot of those because he just doesn't have the leg strength and power running downhill to where it's like he's a patient back, but he gets himself in trouble at times because he's a little too, I'm gonna just kind of wait this out. It's like, no, get out of the backfield. Don't dance. Don't waste time. I think the speed of the game in the NFL is going to force him to speed up his process a little bit. But I think he's a good back. I think he's going to be predominantly a change of pace, third down back, give you punt return ability as well.
Okay, and I'm glad you was able to talk about that because I think there is going to be the variance, right, of how people feel about Will Shipley, but then also just like I said, the name, right, and does it get appropriately placed, right, to the value of the running back, or is he a guy that's overdrafted, underdrafted? I think his time at Clemson, right, has kind of been in between where you've seen some flash level plays, but then there's also been inconsistencies with him as a running back, and they've played Phil Maffa, right, as part of that real tote the rock in between the tackles type of player, and that probably goes to your point as far as what he's good at and what he's able to do. But DP, man, that wraps up your top 10, man. The running back guru, man, that wraps up his top 10 running backs. And like we say, we'll continue to do these rankings, man, because listen, we get more data points, right? We get the Senior Bowl, we get the Combine, we get the East-West Shrine Game, right? We get all of these different data points. We get Pro Day, right? And we get these height, weight, we get measurements, we get verified measurements. So I'm going to show this thing is going to change a little bit, right? But DP, man, that wraps up our first episode of the rankings, right? We're going to go through these position rankings, and I want to say this, man, shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. If you haven't hit that like button, go ahead and hit that like button. If you haven't commented, drop your top 10. This is a conversational piece, right? We want to see who you guys have ranked and what is your order of the top 10 running backs, man. And then if you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel, man. But man, I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code, man. That is my co-host right there, the running back guru, man. Damian Parson, you can find him at DP_NFL, like we like to see. Y'all talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts. Get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. On tomorrow's episode, I know, Keith, you did your wide receiver rankings. Maybe we get it a little bit into that and keep these positional rankings going, man. But guys, listen, come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.